Gentlemen, welcome to the Friday evening call, wherever you are. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you. I am logging in from Southern California. I am currently traveling right now. My internet is a little bit shaky, so my camera will be off for the announcements, but we have an amazing interview lined up for everybody tonight. We have the amazing Mr. Danny Bay that graciously gave us his time. We did a pre-recording yesterday. Unfortunately, some of his family members are going through a funeral time in Japan, so he had to rush out to Japan on a 5 a.m. flight abruptly. But before he had to leave, he went ahead and gave us this interview. And man, we have the American Dream story lined up for you. And for those of you that were directors, you guys got to go to his house in Las Vegas. What an inspiration to be able to see his 10,000 square foot estate, that mansion, right? The lifestyle that Riman actually gives him. So with that said, I want to welcome everybody to the call. We're going to kick this off. As we get started into the announcements, we're going to kick off Riman Retreats. As you know, Riman Retreats is a big part of this business. It is a curriculum of team building, bonding, and building relationships. So if you are a part of the North America, Canada, Mexico markets in spring 2027 for the summer, as we qualify, you will be headed to the Bahamas. We will be partying it up at the Bahamar Resort, and make sure you guys qualify. As long as you do the money making activities, you will accrue something called travel points. Qualify your way there for a free all-inclusive trip. All right, so this is how you qualify. 1,000 travel points is a trip for one. 1,500 travel points is tier two for a trip for one with a $500 airfare reimbursement. 2,500 travel points for tier three for a trip for two with a $1,000 reimbursement, and a tier four 3,000 travel points for a trip for two and a $2,000 airfare reimbursement. Now, these are how you earn travel points. Obviously, due to time, I'm not going to go over this, but we do this every week. If you want to know more information, it is on the drive. But pretty much, according to the compensation plan, as long as you do all the money-making activities, right? Customer sales, team building, advancing in the ranks, and your monthly performance, you are going to be able to accrue points as we go. All right. So, as you know, we just wrapped up a very, very successful Remon North America Las Vegas convention at the MGM Grand. Everybody's emotion is at an all-time high. Everybody is so excited. Everybody has a reaffirmed commitment, reaffirmed dreams and goals. And I believe that event showed us what is possible. Now, as you know, we've made this announcement. We're going to one convention a year because we are going global and growing so fast. Just the schedule doesn't allow it. So it's going to be, one a year. So there's going to be one convention out of North America, one convention out of Europe, one convention out of Asia, one convention out of Latin America, and so forth. So by all these conventions kicking off throughout the year, you're going to have maybe 4 or 5 major events to go. So as we kick off 2027, we will be meeting you back in Viva Las Vegas at the Rio Hotel and Casino. I know there's a lot of controversy over the Rio, but this hotel has been completely remodeled to brand new. But logistically, as far as rooms, affordability, the walk to the convention center, it's a little bit better logistically to do events. So we are going to be kicking it off at the Rio Hotel and Casino. When it's going to be for March of 2027, March 12th to the 14th. As you know, the month of March is the birthday for Riman. And tribute to the United States, March is when we launched the United States of America. So 2027 Remon North America Convention coming to you March 12th to the 14th. This one you must go because it ain't happening again for another year, like full 365 days, okay? Now, as you know, our single ticket for 99 and 10 ticket bundle for 7.99 has been extended. Make sure you guys scan your QR codes and take advantage of these discounts. And we have secured a special room rate exclusively for the Remont community at 189 with taxes and fees per night. Book it now, book it strong, make the commitment now. Don't do it later because oftentimes when you wait and try to do it later, what happens? It's all booked out and nothing is there. So let's hurry up and book it out, right? Early is on time is late, and late is unheard of. All right. Now, as you know, we just launched an August special upgraded senior manager bonus. So you guys can start strong in the month of August. For those of you that become a senior manager, not 300, but you will be given a $500 fast start bonus, and sponsors for helping your frontline new planner do so. You will get 200 US dollars for doing so. And every new planner you launch, you will be paid accordingly. And as you know, it is available from August 10th to August 16th. The convention packs have been extended. Ladies and gentlemen, imagine opening a McDonald's franchise and telling people you'll decide to sell cheeseburgers when you feel like it. When the season of McRib comes around, you tell them, I'll get to it. No, the early bird catches the worm, meaning if you want to be competitive, you got to have all new products in stock. If you want to unlock the uni level, you should at least commit to upgrading to the ultimate collection. Ladies and gentlemen, there are going to be people in your network that other people will contact. Having the upper edge is what is going to make that difference in your business. So make sure you guys take advantage of these convention packs. Now, Saturday, coming to you, we have the Riman Mandarin training program at 6 p.m., followed by a Riman revealed opportunity in Mandarin by our director, Fang. He is going to bring you an action-packed opportunity. And on Monday, we have our team leader and above leadership training with Mr. Danny Bay. As you know, we call this the morning cup of coffee. He brings us updates and all these cool new things coming our way for the week. And this Monday, we have a special Monday Team 1% promotion announcement. We have all of our top producing directors and senior directors. We will be announcing something hot, something really, really fun, action packed. Don't let any of your team miss this exciting announcement for a special team promotion as we come out fired up hot from the convention. This is going to be another catalyst that will put your business into momentum. On Tuesday, as you know, we have our regularly scheduled program, Riman Orientation, brought to you by Riman North America HQ. We have some of our top leaders out of North America sharing special training. And on that same day, Tuesday, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time and 6 p.m. UK Europe time, Spain, Italy, 7 p.m. We also have our Tuesday European orientation training. It is the perfect event to get your people plugged in. This Wednesday, we also have the famous Riman celebrity Miss Angie Troilo. She is the beloved product trainer and development manager. She is such an amazing trainer. She will be doing our Wednesday Tradition Meets Innovation Cleanse, Hydrate, and Protect training. Make sure you guys get on this call. It will make you very highly educated on the sequence of how all of our amazing products works. All right, on Thursday, we also have our Riman Revealed Opportunity Call brought to you by Riman North America HQ. And on Thursday, we also have our Riman Revealed European Opportunity brought to you at 6 p.m. UK time, 7 p.m. European Standard Time, and 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And also at the House of Riman, we have our Riman University training curricular system. This is live in person. It is a rolling 12-week curriculum where we pretty much teach you the advanced trainings of how to become a great leader in direct sales. So make sure you guys come here. It's a great place to network, learn how to be a speaker. And also for Friday, next week's guest, we also have the beloved Miss Betty Perez. She is our North America general manager, but man, does she have an amazing story, right? You know, young girl with a single mom coming out of Southern California. You know, she founded a multi-million-dollar company at the age of 19. I got to see this. We're going to hear that story. Also, you know, she was also a high-level executive to see one of the fastest companies go to $1 billion, and then turn around to see meet Riman at the $2.5 billion mark at their 4-year journey. So this young entrepreneur executive has an amazing story, a unique story. We're going to be excited to hear her interview next week. So as we get on moving along to the main event today, we have the all amazing guest speaker, Mr. Danny Bay, president of sales. You know, Mr. Danny Bay is a very, very good friend of me and Mr. Tim Herr. I would say there is more of a younger brother, older brother dynamic with Tim and Danny. But with myself, you know, we're really, really good friends, and I have a lot of admiration for Danny. You know, Danny got to see my career. You know, he's told me over the years he's listened to my music. And when I arrived in the industry 19 years ago, Mr. Danny Bay was already a superstar. Think about that. When I arrived 19 years ago as a brand new planner trying to figure something out for my future, Mr. Danny Bay was already an established multimillionaire featured in Success magazine. And the company he was with was already doing a $500 million, right? Now, for me to see, it's a multifaceted story because for me, I'm a Korean American born and raised in America, born and raised, and I'm a proud American. My father went to the U.S. Army. He's a veteran, so that's kind of like my history. But when you see Danny Bay, he's an immigrant, right? So, in a sense, he even put me to shame where he had language barriers, right? So watching a gentleman that looks just like me pursuing the American dream, that I believe is what really got me into the door, my foot into this industry. But without further ado, we're going to be playing Mr. Danny Bay's interview. We're really, really grateful. It's about a 50-minute interview. So without further ado, enjoy the American Dream story, and we will see you soon. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the final countdown has arrived. We have our VIP guest. And without further ado, please help me welcome President of Sales, Mr. Danny Bay. Thank you so much for your time. We know how busy you are. Welcome to the Team 1% call for Friday night. Please
Thank
tell
you.
everybody, a special encouraging word. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much for the invitation. Hello, everyone. Team 1%. Excited to connect with everybody on Team 1% Friday night call. I'm excited with everything that's happening right now. I hear from Mr. Tim Herr and Mr. Chris Kim all the time of new success stories, new leaders coming on board, and rank advancement that's happening, and new markets developing, and just so many great things happening in Team 1%. So huge congratulations to everybody for being part of the most powerful team, Team 1%, under the leadership of Mr. Chris Kim and Mr. Tim Herr. You guys are the luckiest people to be part of Riman Opportunity.
Wow, thank you so much. Man, we had an action-packed event. There are so many exciting things. Everybody's morale is high, but if there was one takeaway you could give Mr. Danny Bay, what is the most memorable moment for you for this convention?
This event, just like you said, we had a lot happen, like a lot of activities. We had more master classes, we had trainings, more promotions, and just so many interactions that took place for all the leaders and all the new members coming in. And I'm sure you've been hearing it for
Yeah.
past few days. Everybody's been telling me how this was the greatest convention
Yes.
they have ever experienced and how it impacted them. And so many people told me over the week, past few days, where they said, that one missing thing that they just always felt like they got it, but they were just missing that one thing. So many people told me they got what they needed, and they had that breakthrough, and they had that epiphany, and they had that aha moment, and they feel like five number lock, that you need all five numbers to open, but they felt like they had so many things right, which they had three or four numbers right, but they finally got the last number in the right place, and things are opening and opportunities are being created, and it's exciting. So I think the biggest takeaway is that overall in Riman community, there is a shift, and there's shift that's helping everybody to really be in the right mindset and be in right position to benefit from the growth and the expansion that is happening in Riman now, and it's about to happen even more in the next few years down the road. So the biggest takeaway is that we truly are ready, and this is the time for everybody to have that breakthrough.
Amazing. So throughout the past weeks, we've had some very heavy hitters. We've had like Kate Twig, we've had Karen Kang, we've had a lot of top producing senior directors, leaders that have spoken on stage. But when we kick off our interview, I like to ask a little bit about Riman retreats, because prior to the interview, I go over the Riman retreat qualifications. I emphasize why that's important, why it's a part of the business, a curriculum of the business. But I wanted to kind of pick your brain and ask you why you think Riman retreats is absolutely important, why you must qualify, and then I want to follow up with your very first retreat experience as well, sir.
Yeah, well, we all maybe been on vacations before, right? People have been to, maybe some people maybe even been to the Bahamas, right? And it's not just yes, we have a great time. Yes, we get to stay at a nice resort. We're eating good food. We're having great excursions, and I do think it's important, once in a while to step away from your regular daily life and routine and working environment and to reset and recharge. And I think that is important. But I would say the retreat that we're traveling with hundreds of top leadership in the company together with maybe different past, different background, but common future and common goals and common vision. And we are all doing the same thing or similar things, experiencing similar situations, that we're all coming together to spend a few days together. It is so powerful. It's not just a vacation. It's not just a trip. It's not just the fun that you could have in the Bahamas. It is the environment. And the reality is, many people have never been in an environment, a few hundred successful entrepreneurs that are developing and upgrading and working on their craft, and they're developing skills and having common vision and developing similar language and similar topics and ideas that we're talking about. So to be in a room, be in many rooms for a few days of time, be in an environment full of successful leaders with the same vision and in the same opportunity, with same purpose and same mission. It is so powerful. I mean, I believe that there are things that you could learn with words, things you could learn from trainings, but I think the influence that you could get by being in the right environment is 10 times, if not more powerful than the ideas and information you could get from people or resources. So, I use this example a lot, Mr. Chris, where if you walk into a room full of 50 people that are just having a great time, they're laughing and they're in good mood, they're all positive, even if you had the worst day ever on the day prior, just by walking into that room in an environment of 50 people happy and excited and laughing, staying in the room for a few minutes, it's impossible to not start feeling happy. It's impossible to not laugh with everybody else in the room that is laughing. But you could be having a great day and you walk into a room full of people that are upset and stressed and frustrated, and there's just anger in the vibe, in the air. Nobody has to talk about anything. They could literally have zero conversation in the room, but you feel it in the air. I mean, you walk into that room within a few minutes, you're not going to feel great. And one more example about the retreat is it's like the language, right? As you know, I was born and raised in Korea. Let's just say I wanted to learn a second language, and let's just say I had two options. One option was I want to learn Spanish, but I go to I don't know anybody that speaks Spanish. I live in America. I don't know anybody who speaks Spanish. I'm not in an environment of speaking Spanish. I'm just reading books and memorizing vocabularies. And that's how I try to learn Spanish. That's scenario one. Versus scenario two, if I move to a city or a country where everybody only speaks Spanish and no one speaks Korean to me, no one speaks English to me, everybody's only speaking Spanish, and I'm in an environment of everybody only speaking Spanish. If I want to order food, I have to speak Spanish. If I want to check in at a hotel, I have to speak Spanish, and that's the only language that works in that environment. Which scenario would you learn the language faster and better? And of course, the second scenario, even if you're not as intentional, if you're right in the right environment, it influences you and you learn. And being in on a retreat with few hundred leaders, and not just by yourself, but people in your team qualifying for the retreat, and being in an environment, hanging out with Mr. Chris Kim, Mr. Tim Herr, and Miss Karen Kong, and Mr. Steve Yan, and all the directors and senior directors and the top leadership in those few days. I mean, they will learn more, they will be transformed, and it will influence them to be so much more successful in just a few days of time. And I don't think there's any other setting and an environment that have that impact and the influence as much as retreat does. So everybody should qualify
Yeah.
for the upcoming retreat, and not by yourself, but everybody in your team. There's enough time. It's only August right now. We still have December, November, October, September, and portion of August. There's 4.5 months left. Everybody could qualify with 1,000 travel points. Everybody should do it, and we should really have a great time in the Bahamas.
Amazing, amazing. So let me switch this up. So let me ask you, where was your very first leadership retreat? What was your experience like, your first one? Because I know, obviously you definitely earned it. You went from language barrier to a multimillionaire in this industry, but we want to know your very first Riman retreat. What was that like, qualifying, getting there,
Yeah.
your journey? Please share with us.
Well, it's funny that you talk about the first one because it's true. I've been on retreats for 20, maybe 23 years,
And
and
traveled the world, circled it many
and,
times, right?
and traveled the world. I mean, just this summer, I've been in 13 countries.
Wow.
But probably one of the most memorable experience that I had was my first retreat, which was back in 2003, 23 years ago, when I was only 19 years old.
Ladies
And
and gentlemen, at 19, Mr. Danny qualified. Just remember that. Put some perspective into that. At 19, he
I
qualified.
heard about it. It was the first time I heard about a retreat program. And me and some of my friends, we were working together. We all committed. We said, we're going and we're going and we're going together. And about 18 of my friends, we qualified together and we went to that retreat.
Wow.
It wasn't anything fancy, but for me, it was. I've never experienced anything like it. It's not like the Bahamas, like we're going to a really nice resort. It was a Carnival 3 night 4 day cruise for leaving out of Long Beach, in LA, going to Ensenada, Mexico. Probably, if you could put a dollar value to it, it was probably $300 to $500 cruise trip. But for us, I mean, for us, it was something we've never experienced. I remember all 18 of us, we qualified, we went every day. We had such a great time. Everything we experienced, it was the first time. But also we were on that cruise with other successful people that had more life experience and business experience and leadership experience. And yes, we had great time, but they had couple sessions that were little training sessions and just even at dinner, being on the same table, just having conversations and hearing stories. It was life changing. And I still think about it all the time, even after 23 years, because if I didn't go to my first retreat, I'm not sure if I would have, if I would have, I know it influenced and impacted me enough to do what I've done in past last, 23 years. If I didn't, I don't know if I will be here today. So it was very powerful. And I remember it.
Ladies and gentlemen, one event can literally give you the aha moment that could completely change your life. And that is why we do what we do. All right. So, here's what I wanted to touch on. The undisputed, probably top moneymaker in our industry right now, Mr. Danny Bay. When it's all said and done, I think the history books, they're gonna write something very, very impressive about you. Like I was inspired when I first met you 20 years ago. But we want to know the raw story. We want to know the real grit, what it looked like when you got to America, what led you to network marketing. But prior to network marketing, I want to know who Danny Bay is prior to the successful person. Like what stimulated him, what moved him, what gave him the motivation to go seek a better life. I want to know that Danny when he first got to America. Share with us who that Danny Bay is.
Yeah, so my family moved to Las Vegas from Korea when I was 14 years old, and my father was a school teacher and a musician when we were in Korea. When we moved out here, it's a bit unique story because a lot of times people don't move when things are going well, but for my father, he had a great career. He was conducting at church every week. He had a classical radio talk show that he was speaking at every week. He was writing different, projects musically that that was winning awards, and he was critiquing for the most popular music magazine publication,
Wow.
and he was now they weren't attached to money. They were more cultural things that he was passionate about. He was living his passion to the fullest, and he was living great life. But he thought, for me and my brother, our family to have better education and better opportunity. We had the opportunity to move to America because of my mother's parents and the mother side of family. So he sacrificed all that, and we moved to United States, which I guess I felt grateful for, but I felt bad about because I knew how much he missed it. And they got into laundry, like a dry cleaners business, which wasn't successful, and so I moved here at 14, but I got a job when I was 15. We were very tight financially. We had the things that we needed, but it was we never had things that we wanted it. Even growing up in Korea, I never went shopping until I moved to America. So thankfully, a member of my dad's choir member, he used to have clothing business in one of, I guess, in America, if we could compare it to like flea market, in Korea, like Dongdaemun, right? Like those
Yeah.
wholesale, just shirts, like they sell by the weight of the bag, not by the item. And, he was a member of my dad's choir. So he used to donate clothes to our family, twice a year, so twice a year, he would give us a bag of t-shirts and things. And that's all I knew. That's all I grew up, wearing until we moved to the United States. So, we come from humble yet very grateful beginning. And, being in America, parents working 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. almost every day, except for Sundays and a couple of holidays. I worked since I was 15 at a teriyaki shop. Worked at dry cleaners. I worked at sports park cleaning the softball field. Doing kids' birthday parties at the skating rink, and worked at Starbucks. And
I have a question regarding
yeah.
that. Those hardships, I wouldn't say hardships, I would say that molded you, but those times, how do you think it molded you to become who you are? What did that do to you during that time?
Well, I guess the drive and the work ethic, right? It's
Yeah.
my Starbucks shift was 4 a.m. to 12 p.m. And I intentionally picked that shift because I wanted to take my classes in the afternoon and still do network marketing in the evening time, which I wasn't making any money at. But this is right when I was starting college. So, and to work at 4 a.m. on the strip at New York Hotel Starbucks. I had to leave the house, at 2:45 a.m. in the morning. Those hotels, it's from check-in to the actual working location inside of those big hotels. It takes a long time, but I think it had a lot to do with number one, teaching me work ethic. Also, you know, the having thick skin. I think, becoming an entrepreneur, having thick skin is important. Especially having language barrier. Almost every job I had, I was made fun of. I didn't get it right away. I was slow, and I got yelled at a lot. My first job, I mean, I was 15 and I didn't speak English. I only lived in America for a year. So I'm not saying he was the bad guy. It's just that I probably wasn't doing a good job. Every day I worked, he will yell at me. He's like, "You're so stupid. You're so slow. How do you even go to school? Why do you live in America?" I mean, those are the conversations that I heard over and over, which at the moment it felt, it was hurtful, emotionally hurtful. I remember going home and crying about it. But even if something hurts, if it keeps hitting you, you get stronger. You know what I mean? And I think it definitely helped me to get thicker skin, and also taught me work ethic, by having those multiple jobs, in the early days.
So I want to ask you, because the next question was the language barrier. What I don't think even motivation is the right word. What made you, forced you, I gotta learn the language. Like what was it that like because there's I'll be honest with you. There's a lot of Korean Americans or immigrants that come here. They find their community, and a lot of times they don't have to learn English, right? They're content where they are. Once they find their community, they can learn maybe we call it Konglish, right? Korean and English mixed.
Right?
Yeah, but for you, your story is unique, special, but it's like you are the true American dream story, Danny. And what made you like do that? Like, what drove you?
Well, I fell into that category, right? My first 3, 4 years in America, most of my friends are Koreans. It was easier to communicate, right? And so I didn't make intentional effort to learn the language as much as I should have. But two things happened for me at the same time in 2001. Well, I should say three things. So, one is, yes, I was introduced to direct sales when I was in 2001, so 25 years ago. And everybody only spoke English. There was, in that business environment, there was nobody speaking Korean. And in 2001, also, I met my wife. We started dating now. She moved to the United States when she was 7. She felt way more comfortable with English than Korean. English is her main language. And I wanted to speak Korean. She said, we're in America, we're going to speak English. So
Wow.
I had to, there was another motivation that forced me to at least start speaking English. And third thing is, I grew up in Korean church for a long time, but in 2001, I started going to this American church, English church, that my wife was going to at the time. So with three, it's an environment change. Kind of going back to what we are talking about retreat earlier, it was an environment change. It was my business environment, my dating environment, and my church environment, which took up most of the time outside of school. That used to be Korean speaking environment, but it became English speaking environment. And I'm so grateful because that was the same time I got introduced to audio tapes and trainings, and I started listening to Jim Rohn. Jim Rohn was the first person I started listening to for first 2.5 years. I didn't listen to anybody else, only Jim Rohn. So I almost joke about it and say Jim Rohn is my English teacher. I
I've
was
heard that saying almost a decade ago from you. I've
yeah.
heard you say this almost 10 years ago. Yeah.
It's
Yes.
true. Jim Rohn, that's how I've learned English. It's Jim Rohn's philosophy and business lessons with English that's how I've learned. So
Wait a minute. Can you explain to the audience what you did to listen to Jim Rohn? I think like that's the important part, right? Like it's not that you just listen to it, but like how you listen to it, what you actually immersed in. Explain that to everybody that's listening.
yeah, so when I first got introduced to Jim Rohn, I got introduced to a 60-minute program, 1 hour program called Building Your Network Marketing Business. That was
Changed
the
my
audio,
life.
right?
Changed my life.
Changed our lives. And it's only 1 hour program. Now, back then we didn't have YouTube, we didn't have podcasts. You didn't have access to any resource unless you physically went and bought something and you're physically playing it, right? So that was the only CD I had. And I played it. That was the only CD that was in my car for 6 months. So every time I was driving, because I've heard somebody say, turn your car into a mobile university. So for 6 months, that's the only thing that played in my car. Now,
Wow.
I'm a musician. I love music. I used to listen to music only, but 6 months I didn't listen to music. That's all I was listening to. And especially because I didn't understand English good yet, I knew that I had to listen to it multiple times for me to start understanding a little bit. After that, I got introduced to 4 hour program called Challenge to Succeed by Jim Rohn. This was a live seminar he'd done in '90s. Somebody recorded it, and they produced a 4 hour audio program. And when I got that program, it was so powerful, and I really wanted to understand it. I put it in, and this is when the 6 CD car changer started being in the car, right? So and Jim Rohn's audios were a 6 CD set at the time. So Challenge to Succeed, I put it in my car, filled up all 6 CDs, and that is the only thing that played in my car for 2.5 years. And those 2.5 years I used to go to California every week round trip. 4 hour drive, listen to the full thing on the way to California, middle of the week, driving around a little bit, listen to it. Coming back home, listen to it. So every week I've listened to the full program 3 times a week, every week for 2.5 years without before I took out a single CD out of my car to listen to something else. And that became the foundation. Of course, that taught me English and I started speaking English better, but it became the foundational philosophy for life and business, leadership. All those things were, it wasn't printed in my brain, it was engraved in that two and
Yeah.
a half years of time. And it wasn't going to change after that. It stayed, through whatever was happening in life. So yeah, and I wanted to really get it. So every time I listen to it, I will try to talk with it. I will say it with Mr. Jim Rohn because I really wanted to memorize it. And I've spent a couple of years like that in the car, which was a true blessing. And I've learned the most in that time.
You are the absolute definition of determination. Like, this is why, when it's all said and done, I feel like you're going down in the history books because you went from an immigrant that couldn't speak the language, and now you're dominating the entire industry in a few short decades. I mean, it's crazy. But talking about Jim Rohn, let me ask you this. Like, obviously, seeking out mentors and mentorship and personal development is what changes a person's life. Let me ask you, at what crossroads did you find a good mentor? I know one of your mentors. I know Tim played a hand in helping you. I also know one of the great mentors, Jim Rohn, personally trained you. But let me ask you, like, when you what was it that like clicked for you that you needed a mentor, somebody to follow, and the benefits to that? Can you explain to our listeners today?
Yeah, absolutely. I think having a mentor that you could learn from is crucial. Having a coach. I don't know if any athlete ever became at their maximum level of success without having a coach. I don't know if any artist ever became at their maximum level of performance level without a coach.
True.
So, a coach or mentor, I think it's not optional. If someone really wants to be great at something, it is mandatory. Um, Now, however, I think where a lot of people do miss is that they think that mentor has to be someone that is next to them every day, physically they have access to. The reality is, I listened to Mr. Jim Rohn's teaching, and I've considered Mr. Jim Rohn as my mentor for 4 years before I physically met him. And I've only physically met him handful amount of times. I've only spoke to him on the phone handful amount of times. I've actually spoken to him less than 10 times, before he passed. But I've spent hundreds of thousands of hours with him, probably, in the car together. In the car together on my computer, on my
What
phone.
was that like though when you met him? Like, you must have been so starstruck because I'm
Oh,
sure you told
absolutely.
Mr. Rohn you changed my life. You told him that, right?
Absolutely. The first time I got to meet him was at a live event. It was the Challenge to Succeed program that I've been listening to for a long time. He was doing a live seminar of Challenge to Succeed in San Bernardino, California.
Wow.
Back in, I believe it was like 2005, or something like that. And I brought over 100 partners with me. We drove together. We all dressed up in the same outfit, like a black suit and gold tie. We wanted to show up representing. We wanted to impress, and we wanted to show respect. And afterwards, he was so kind, took pictures with all of us, and had these like conversations with us. Yes, I still remember that day like it was just yesterday, and it made the biggest impact. And I told him how grateful I was, for all the teachings that he has, deposited in me even before I physically met him. Talking about Mr. Jim Rohn, I do have a special story. Now, I did get to speak to him just a couple of weeks prior to he passed.
Wow.
We have a mentor, a gentleman that I actually got to spend 6 7 years with, Mr. Jerry. That they were very close friends. So they've been friends for many decades. So he he put me on the phone with him just a couple weeks prior. When he was battling with his health condition before he passed, and I was so grateful that I got to have that experience. So after he passed, a couple years later, the business I was in, we were getting ready to launch Korea. When I arrived in Korea to launch, I realized no one knew who Mr. Jim Rohn was. Jim Rohn's audio tapes weren't available. His books weren't published in Korea. And I thought to myself, this country needs Jim Rohn's teaching. They need to have Mr. Jim Rohn's message in this country, so in my home country. So I actually seeked out and convinced the publisher to actually contact the Jim Rohn, International in United States, and they had to pay, they had to spend a lot of money to do it, but they actually worked with Jim Rohn International, and I helped them to launch two of
Wow.
only Jim Rohn's books in Korea many years ago, which was my appreciation. Even though Mr. Jim Rohn has already passed, it was a way of me, number one,
Paying him
saying
back.
thank you and paying
Yeah.
back for what he has done for me. But I wanted his message and teaching to continue even on the other side of the world in Korea.
Wow, I just got goosebumps, and I'm hearing this now from you. Ladies and gentlemen, I know Mr. Danny Bay over 20 years. He's in my wedding photo of 19 years ago. He's somebody I dearly respect and look up to. And hearing this story for the first time, I'm getting goosebumps. Man, you got to do that for Jim Rohn in Korea. That's amazing. Wow. Okay, now I want to kind of switch it up a little bit, but everybody knows the Tim Her Danny Bay story. Okay. But I want to go a little bit deeper because there is a behind the scenes story that most people don't know about. And that was the recruiting journey to get you to be same team with Tim. I want to talk about just that whole ordeal because I heard, it was quite an episode, right? But also, if we talk about Mr. Timher, tell us about your experience, when you first were new, seeing a person that you couldn't really communicate with. Tell us what that was like, and let's go over like the showdown of the recruiting of how you two became partners.
Yeah. So we were in a business together back in 2002, but we were not in the same team. So, but he pointed out he came out to Las Vegas to do an event, and he saw a group of people, and that's when I was just getting started. I wasn't having success yet, and he told the partners in that company, he said, "Hey, that kid has potential. Like that's the guy. You got to watch out for that guy."
That's the leader. That's what he said. He was
Yeah.
talking about you all night.
Yeah. So, but I didn't speak English yet. I was barely, 19 years old, 18, 19 years old. And he wanted to help me. So he came, even though we weren't in the same team, he came to me and said, "Hey, next time I'm in Vegas, I want to help you. I want to teach you how to recruit. I want to help you." And I said, "Absolutely." He said, "Are you open?" I said, "Absolutely." He said, "Okay, I'm going to pick you up at 9 a.m. in the morning.
This was just
And
random.
Random, yeah. So we're not in the same team, and he just saw he wanted to help me, right? So he picked me up in the morning. He took me out to teach me how to recruit, teach me how to follow up, and we spent about 4 or 5 days together. So I got to work with them every day. That's the only time I got to actually work with them every day for like 4 or 5 days of time when I was just pretty new in the business. And I have to say that was that was the breakthrough for me because
The
prior to that,
eye-opening.
oh, eye-opening because before that I was scared to talk to. I never even thought about talking to strangers. I was scared to talk to people, even people I had relationship with. I was timid to talk to them. But being around him and watching him and him showing me how to do it and coaching me how to do it for 5 days of time, it got me out of my shell. And it got me to start talking to people, with a little more posture and confidence, and that opened up the door for me. And after that, a couple years went by. That company, unfortunately, was a startup. They only lasted 4 months, so that company ended up closing. But a couple years later, he gave me a call and he said, I'm on my way to Las Vegas. And he just came. Now, I was in a different business. We were actually having a pretty decent sized success. We just started a few months ago, so we were pretty busy. But he came over to my office, and after that, he came into the house and he said, "We're not leaving until you sign up." I mean, it was pretty aggressive. And he stayed and he came to my other business office. He came to the office with me every day. He sat there, he was talking to my people, and he went a few days. And, some of the things made sense where it made sense to start working together. And I was
Wait,
excited to work with him.
ladies and gentlemen, did you hear Mr. Danny Bay subtly say, "Yeah, the recruiting went a few days." He was
Yeah.
on Mr. Danny for days, and he said he's not leaving till you say yes. What was the breaking point that made you say yes? Because
Well,
you were committed, right? And you're like ready
yeah.
to go down this way, but literally, Tim recruited you for days and days and days on end, and successfully U-turned you. Like, what was it
Yeah.
that did it?
What really did it for me is kind of going back to talking about mentor earlier. Until that point, that was my now 2.5, 3 years into the industry. I didn't really have a mentor that I was working with day to day basis because usually either my sponsor was also new, just like me, and their upline leaders were in California, not locally here. So we barely saw them. We had very limited access to them. So until then, we were just hungry for mentorship and sources and trainings. And many of them were either us going to California or listening to conference call or reading books or audio. And we were just making the best out of what we've learned, but I didn't have a personal mentor that I was able to call and work with daily. And the fact that Tim helped me to break out of my shell a couple years prior, and that I looked at it as an opportunity. Hey, I could work with him. And now I could actually finally have a personal mentor I could work with. And Mr. Timmer also introduced me to Mr. Jerry, who was his original mentor. That I thought, man, if I could have Tim and Mr. Jerry as a mentor that I could learn and grow with, man, what I'm doing now I could do so much better. So it was the hunger for mentorship. And of course, Mr. Timmer's persistence. I knew he wasn't leaving my house until I said yes. So, um, and it was the greatest. It was the greatest decision I made up to that point because that's the company I got to spend 16 years with, and that absolutely changed my life.
So let's talk about that company of 16 years. You had massive success. I got to see some of the nice toys you had, the biggest success you've ever had, during that time. I believe maybe I could safely brag that probably you and I probably had the biggest run in South Korea during that decade. But I got to see some of your biggest wild successes. And, I want to talk about like when was the breakthrough in your career with life-changing money? I'm not talking about momentum and you made a few tens of thousands. I'm talking life-changing money. When that started happening, like what was the breakthrough? What shifted in your mind? Like, you elevate, right? So walk with us through that because, some people on this call, one day they're going to have their breakthrough and they're going to make insane income through this industry. And, just walk us through what that was like.
Yeah. I mean, in the beginning, we don't know, we don't even know how to think about those, right? And I
Yeah.
mean, like the reality is I got started because, my friend's friend made $600. And I thought if he's making $600, if I can make $600, I'm making my paycheck at Starbucks, for 2 weeks is like about $480. I'm like, if I could work part-time here and double my income, that will be exciting. That's how the journey started. And back then I'm thinking if I could make 10,000, like you're rich. I'm thinking 10,000 is financial independence until you get there to realize, no, this is not financial independence. Like,
Yeah.
you're
Broke at a
just,
higher level. Broke
yeah,
at a
you're
higher
still
level.
broke just in style, with the,
Yeah.
and, so yes, I thought 10,000 was the magic number when I was on my way there. I thought 30,000 was the magic number when I was on my way there. I thought 50,000 was like, oh my
Wait,
God.
wait a minute, ladies and gentlemen. When I first started, Mr. Daniel Bay was in Success Magazine. He was like, I made 80K this month. So, and that's like more than 20 years ago. So, guys, like, I'm talking like when Mr. Danny Bay made his seven-figure breakthrough. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah. So, I don't think I knew how to think that big, but I went on a journey thinking that 10 is going to be it, 30 is going to be it, 50 is going to be it, and 100 is going to be it. And I realized that, hey, that's incredible income and that's a great upgraded lifestyle. But to really build wealth and to really build wealth beyond my lifetime, to really create, build portfolio and build wealth for
Yes.
your family and your next generation, and to really be in a position to truly have freedom, to really be able to do things that you want to do for things you believe, areas you want to give, areas you want to develop, and areas you want to invest time and resources in. It requires more. You could have
Yeah.
good personal life for your living at 30, 40, 50, level. But when I really started seeing it, just like you said, is when I started experiencing multiple seven figure, not one time, couple months, but consistently every month of multiple six figure, which has ended up being multiple seven figure of cash flow, of income,
Cash.
income coming in every month. There are people that are worth from real estate or stock portfolio or assets that are worth millions. But to have millions of cash flow income that's coming in every year, there are not many opportunities around the world that really provide that type of a income opportunity
Yes.
from without being top athlete or top celebrity, or owning a business that you have the overhead and the risk of tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. So,
Yeah.
and that's what I love and respect about our industry, is that it gives an average person an above average chance to achieve that level of success is possible here. Is it for everybody? No. The work that takes, the time that takes, the discipline it takes, it's it's for the few that wants to get to that level.
Yeah.
But it's available. It is available, and it's been happening for many decades
Yep.
in variety of different companies and projects over the years, and I believe that it's happening stronger today than it ever did 30, 40, 50 years ago. And whenever we're sharing an opportunity with someone, yes, they could be like me, where they wants to make extra $600 starting point. But if they stay the course and if they want to continue to have that mindset, finish never is. And they truly have the mindset of, hey, it's good, but how do I turn it into great, good to great, and pursue and realize that more people I help to succeed, more success I'm going to have. And only way you could have big success is by helping thousands of people to have their success first. It almost becomes like I don't know how to stop at a level, because I feel like we have to help more people,
Yeah.
and that's why it's continuing to grow, and I feel like we're just getting started.
Yeah. Me and Mr. Timmer joke once in a while, but it's like nobody's outworking Mr. Danny Bay because we respect your work ethic so much. I want to ask you, we have limited time left, but here's what I do want to ask you more on an intimate level. We do what we do because of our why, for the people we love. I remember years ago, like 15 years ago when you were training, you talked about how you made a decision in your heart you're going to retire your parents, and so they never ever have to work a day, and those kind of drives, right? But when I look at you, you're somebody that has pretty much 99% achieved it all, through the power of your mindset. But what I want to ask you is, what was that feeling like? Let me wait, ladies and gentlemen, let me give you some context, okay? I remember Mr. Danny Bay's previous his estate, his mansion. He had a seven-car garage with an elevator in there. Like it's like a Batman house, the Bat Cave. But like when it was all said and done and you've had this financial success, when you moved your family into a beautiful home like that, knowing you could provide the lifestyle you only dreamed of, what was that feeling like for you? Because that's a very intimate feeling. That's like a life goal that most people dream of. and you've done it two, three times over, sir. Like, what was that feeling like buying a brand new home for your family, giving them just that kind of life? What was that like for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's grateful, right? I mean, it's so grateful and it is emotional because we know where we came from. You know,
Exactly.
we, we, my parents, when we first moved to the United States, I mean, after opening up dry cleaners and moving into an apartment, we didn't have any money. I remember, my mom at dry cleaners crying about, us, being short a few $100s and trying to figure it out and trying to, even pull. I think I had $250 in my bank account when I was in middle school. She had to pull that out of my account. And I remember having the conversation, her crying emotionally at dry cleaners, and that's where we come from, so yeah, we did have a beautiful house that we built towards. It had a car elevator, had a people
Well, your house is
elevator.
just as big and
Um,
nice too right now. So,
it
but
was
I'm going
it
back to
was
like the first time you did that. You know what
first
I
time when we did it.
mean?
I
As a young
remember
man, as a young man.
walking in there, just saying, "Hey, you know what? I want to provide different life for my kids. I want them to have different birthday parties, experiences. I want their friends to feel safe coming over and hanging out here. But I also wanted to, and that was the initial driver until I got there.
Mhm.
And when we moved in, and when our family got to enjoy the blessing and the achievement, what I really wanted to do was I hosted events, leaders coming over all the time because I wanted them to know that it was possible. I
Yeah,
wanted them to know that it's not just for select few. It's not just for me. If I could do it, I feel like everybody has an advantage than me because I didn't even speak the language. I
exactly.
wasn't born in this country. When I started the industry, I didn't have mentors like we provide. I didn't
Yeah.
have the trainings and the environment like we provide. And I believe that people that are joining today under this leadership and environment, their chance of success is greater than my chance of success when I started. And I did it. And I just want them to know that it's possible because if they could start to believe that it's possible for them, their life could change, not overnight, but in 2 to 5 years, I believe that people's lives could change. So yeah, I'm grateful, emotional every time I think about it. The house we're in now, I'm so grateful because now my kids are old enough that we picked it together. We designed it together. We purposed it together to do what they want to do, and I'm really grateful for that.
When you took me for a tour around your house for the director's party, you definitely did show me what's possible. And I left so motivated. But the phone calls from all the directors, it's like they're all saying, Mr. Danny showed us what is possible. And I believe the vision painting, the dream building, man, that is so important. Now, when I look at your career, I look at your life, your blessing. It's synonymous what you said. It's synonymous with what you said, and it's the habit of never quitting. And you are the definition of that. You are a byproduct of all your success because of that one philosophy. So, in closing, if you could share one more time the habit of never quitting, please share with our listeners, what it could really do, your final touches and your final thoughts on this matter, because you are an example. You're the living dream and the American dream. So, please share.
Yeah, I don't know where I picked up, but I've learned over the years that habit of never quitting. It's it's not just a decision. It's a skill that you have to develop. Because it is so easy to quit.
Yes.
In
You
everything.
humbled me, and I
Yeah.
learned this weekend when you said that.
Like it is
Yeah.
so easy to quit. And even with my kids, ever since they were little, I every time we went and did anything, like, hey, anytime you start something, we don't give up. Like we don't quit. And as silly as it sounds, maybe it's not a good example, but even if we go to an arcade and we're trying to win that prize, I mean, I wanted them to have a mentality of we never give up. We don't quit. And we did it and we did it again and did it again until we won. And just last week too, it just happened. Like my daughter had a bunch of her accessories, necklaces in a drawer together. So there were like 8 necklaces all tangled up with each other. And like her and, my wife, they were like, oh man, this this is like too bad. Like, what are we gonna do? I said, give it to me, man. I have an issue. I have an issue. When I see something like that, I have to start. And once I start, I have to finish. And I
Never quit.
sat there after midnight, one by one, doing it to untangle and let it go because I cannot stop. And I do believe what Mr. Timmer taught us. How you do anything is how you do everything. And I intentionally develop the skill of never giving up. I try to do the same with our kids and in our business and our task because it's not matter of if problems are coming. It's not matter of if difficulties are going to come. It's not matter of if distractions and temptations show up. It is matter of when. Every person experiences those things. And only way for you to actually get to the finish line is to not give up. No one succeeds by giving up the race. It's
Yeah.
impossible. You have to finish the game. And if it doesn't matter what's happening in the middle, and actually tougher and rougher and uglier it is during the middle of the game or middle of the movie, middle of the book, it is more drama there is in the middle. It actually makes the success story even better. And I realize, especially if I don't like what's happening right now, if I don't like where I am right now, only way what I'm experiencing right now could become a positive thing and become inspirational is if I finish the race and if I succeed. If I don't, I'm defeated and this is going to be a negative experience. It's not going to be a positive experience. So everything I'm going through, I don't want it to be negative. I want it to be positive. And only way to do that is to finish the race and make it happen and succeed. So I don't see a reason to give up or quit. I know it's easy to, but I don't know how to. And I say that to myself all the time. I don't know how to give up. And if all the leaders in the journey and the projects that they're on, if they could develop that skill and the habit of not quitting, everybody could achieve whatever they want to achieve in life. And I truly believe that.
Amazing. Wow. What an amazing interview, Mr. Danny Bay. Thank you so much for your time today. Ladies and gentlemen, what you heard tonight is a drop of wisdom. This gentleman has lived the life, done it, and he is leading from the front. Mr. Danny Bay, when it's all said and done, you are going to be a legend of this industry. We're so proud of you. We're so glad to be following you. We're so honored to be a part of this journey. And most importantly, thank you for not quitting on all of us, leading from the front and being that example. Thank you so much for your time today. Ladies and gentlemen, let's show Mr. Danny Bay some love. When you get a chance to see him on social media, tell him how much you appreciate his time. So with that said, Mr. Danny Bay, thank you so much. We will see you on the next call. I will be seeing you on the Monday morning call. Thank you and have a great evening. We'll see you soon.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chris Kim. Thank you, everyone. Team 1%. Let's go.
Let's go. Bye-bye.